So JPB back here for another amazing world tour video, and today we are going to be landing in Cebu, which is the second largest city in all of the Philippines, but the oldest. And so sit back and relax and enjoy the ride with us. Here we are arriving at the international airport here, and our first stop is going to be at Magellan's Cross. Magellan's Cross is one of the first and earliest landmarks in the Philippines, where Magellan actually marked his territory here by planting the first Christian cross in the Philippines. The original cross is actually within that cross that you see there in the picture. And right next to Magellan's Cross is this Basilica de Santo Niño. The Santo Niño is this reimagination, I guess, of the Christ, where you see him portrayed as a little king. So this is his basilica that is dedicated to him, and you can see here a lot of Catholics and Christians come here to pray to the Santo Niño, and a lot of images that are portrayed all along the landmark here. But Christianity, Catholicism, that's the national religion of the Philippines, and so you're going to see a lot of marks of Catholic faith all around. It is the predominant faith in this area. And here is us making our way towards that basilica. The church itself is okay. It's pretty ornate, but it is actually quite small in terms of churches as far as they go. So it's a nice church. You can see a lot of the little Santo Niños on the wall there, and it's generally pretty ornate, but it is relatively small when you compare this to some of the churches that you might see around the world. Now, all of the landmarks that we're about to go to are generally close in terms of vicinity, so everything is within walking distance. But the issue in the Philippines, as always, is that there aren't any really manageable sidewalks to use in terms of walking around. So you do have to walk on the streets at times, and you do happen to fall into some of the traffic. So you got to be careful about that. Our next stop here is Fort San Pedro, and this is actually a small fort that was one of the original forts where Magellan and his crew actually resided in the old times. And this fort is a landmark because it is the oldest fort in all of the Philippines. The reason this place came to be was because the Filipinos, the native tribes there, actually started resisting the Spanish settlers that came there. And this was ultimately the place where Magellan met his ultimate demise, in that the indigenous people here subsequently actually killed him. And you can see that depicted in this picture. Fun fact also that Magellan was actually Portuguese. He wasn't Spanish, as most people believe. He was actually Portuguese, hired by the Spaniards. And so that's also a little interesting factoid. But this place has a lot of history, and it is the first fort of all of the Philippines. And so there is a little bit of historical context here in terms of why this place is important. As most Filipinos know, the Philippines has been colonized by Spaniards for over 200 years, and so it does hold a lot of history. The next place we stopped here was the Taoist Temple, and this is the largest Taoist temple in the Philippines. And it's very ornate. There is a lot of architectural detail in terms of this place, as well as the statues that are here. And it was quite a quiet place. There are a lot of different architectural details, like I mentioned, that make this place quite unique. And it's one of the largest Taoist temples in the Philippines, and it is here in Cebu. So we figured we'd stop here and you can see how pretty all of the architecture is around the area. The next stop on our tour here was Sirao Garden, and this was quite a bit of a trip from Taoist temple. It's quite up north in the mountains, and there isn't a Uber or a Grab that will take you there. There's a rocky, horrible road to get to this location, but we managed to get there on the guidance of our driver. This is one of those Instagrammable locations that some tourists like to go just because you can get a lot of photo opportunities here. Lots of pretty flowers and beautiful scenery, lots of gardens and beautiful flowers to kind of just set the backdrop for most of your photos. It's okay. I'm not one of those Instagram people, but certainly a pretty place to spend a good half hour to an hour in. It was quite a trek, like I mentioned, from the Taoist temple, and it's even further from downtown Cebu. So it is a little bit of a hike if you're interested in coming here. And there is an entrance fee to this place. Again, you really need to have cash in the Philippines to go to some of these locations because some of them do not take credit card. If you haven't already, please like the video. It really does help with the channel in terms of promoting it, and I certainly appreciate it. As I was saying, this garden is pretty nice in terms of the breathtaking views you can see there. You have these hands that reach up into the sky. That's definitely one of those Instagrammable little structures that a lot of people gravitate towards these days. And you can see here a better view of all of the landscape around. From the Sirao Gardens, we subsequently made our way downhill where there were a few other attractions. Again, the road up here wasn't very easy, so there were a lot of unstructured roads that you will have to go over. But the next stop here was the Temple of Leah, and this is actually a pretty interesting spot. This is actually a mausoleum that is dedicated to one particular woman, and this woman was Leah, who was the wife of this rich Cebu citizen. Now, the story behind this place was that Leah was somewhat of a collector. If you were to ask me, I would say she was kind of a hoarder, where she collected a bunch of stuff. You can see here her collection of things here. 2 pianos. You had so much stuff that she basically filled all of the homes that she owned in the area. She had multiple homes, and she filled it with all of her collectibles, and she was so concerned about her stuff that she was worried when she passed away that she wouldn't have any place to put this. It was so full in all of her homes that basically she had to keep all of the stuff in storage at some point. And so when she was unfortunately dying from some sort of cancer, she actually raised this concern with her husband, and her husband promised her that he would build something to basically keep all of her collectibles in place. A little crazy, I know, but you can see all of the collectibles that this woman owned, and this is basically a memorial to her, and she's actually buried here, and her stuff is actually still here with her. So her husband made good on his promise, and so that's the story behind this. Now, I don't know about you, but if you were to ask me why any husband would do this for their wife, if there was any reason to be so dedicated to building something like this for their wife, I feel like there might be some other story behind this, where maybe there is some sort of guilt that the husband carried for some other reason, whether or not he may have been not such a great husband. But you can see this statue that was erected specifically for Leah, and it's in this Roman Greek architecture that you see this, and it's actually become quite the tourist attraction. And so a lot of people come and visit this mausoleum to this woman that hasn't done anything great other than collect stuff. I just wonder if maybe the husband could have used that money in other ways that could have helped the community, where maybe they could have contributed to the infrastructure of Cebu, maybe contributed more to the city itself instead of erecting this massive mausoleum for his wife. But money is money, and of course people are going to spend it however they want. But it's kind of disheartening to me, particularly when you see so much poverty out in downtown Cebu. And I just feel like money could have been better spent. But again, it's not my money to spend. This is how her husband decided to use it. So it is what it is. And it's not free to get in here either. There is an entry fee. Our next stop here was Tops, which is just right down the street or right up the street from the Temple of Leah. And this is a little area where, again, you have to pay an entrance fee. And this is probably where you will get the best views of Cebu. If you walk around here, you'll look at this gorgeous view of Cebu here. And you can get a very, very nice, unique look at the entire city from here. Overall, this was a nice trip to the Philippines. This was our last destination in terms of all of the tours that we did in the Philippines, and it was a nice way to kind of end it on a nice note with this majestic view of the city. And you can see everything from here. If you look from far away, everything looks so beautiful, but it's one thing to see it from this distance. It's another to actually be down in the region and see it up close, because that's where you'll get to really see the issues that might be there in terms of the Philippines. While you do get these mega malls and you do get these pretty vistas, you really do also see a lot of poverty, and it's very hard to see it sometimes as a Filipino. The reality is that it shouldn't be this way. The Philippines seems like it hasn't changed much in the last 20 years that I haven't been here, and it just feels like the country hasn't really improved in terms of the infrastructure, which is really a shame. It really is hard to see this from a country that should have really gotten much better in terms of that infrastructure, like I had mentioned. I really feel like there is some really big bureaucratic issues that plague the Philippines, and unfortunately the people are the ones that tend to suffer from this. This is one of those massive megastructure malls in the area, and we're going to highlight some of this while we're closing out the video. But the Philippines is a beautiful place. There are so many beautiful things about it, including its culture and its people. I just wish that there was more that the government could do for the people, and that's the really big problem with this country, is that there isn't enough being done for its people. But in any event, it is worth it. This is the part of the video where we talk costs. So in terms of our lodgings, we spent $204. Transportation costs were a little bit higher. We took multiple grabs and taken multiple tours, and we did a flight out to Cebu. So the cost was a bit higher, and our food costs were a little bit on the high end at $167. Miscellaneous tours $163. Grand total slightly over $1,000, breaking it down to about $172 per day, which is a steal considering we're a family of three. But overall, I certainly think that the Philippines is worthwhile, and I hope you guys get a chance to see it. This concludes our tour of the Philippines. I hope you enjoyed it. Please like and subscribe. Next stop, Beijing.